This is one of two lists I'm doing, the second one of which will be going up sometime in the next week or so, and is actually the one that I'm much more excited about. Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co., and this is a Gencon preview list. A Gencon list of going through the 370 so games that BGG, Board Game Geek, currently has up, and selecting the 10 that I have, 10 of them that I want to talk about. 10 games, specifically games that I have already played, specifically games I've already played, in some way, form, shape, prototype or non-prototype, I've already talked about or played these games, and I wanted to bring them to your attention. They're games that are going to be at Gen Con. You may have heard me talk about them before, but I want to say that if you're going to Gen Con, these are 10 games to have on your radar. Some of them you might be able to buy, some of them you might be able to try, some of them you might be able to look at and gaze longingly at. I don't really know all the details, but these are 10 games, 11 really, because I do that, games that I wanted to talk about. Additionally, within the next week or so, I'll have 10 more games that I'm talking about. I haven't finalized that list yet. I've started picking things out. The next list is going to be 10 games that I want to play. 10 games I have not played that in some way, shape, or form I'm looking forward to seeing at Gen Con. Make sure to subscribe and ring the bell and like and comment and all those things to see that video when it pops up. Really, subscribing is more than enough. The rest of it's just for me. In any case, let's go ahead and dive into this. As usual, timestamps down below. We're going to go through the games, and the reason I have 11 in this case is because starting off, the number 11, or the number 10 really, the number 11 we're going to do next, number 10 is Planet Unknown. Planet Unknown from Adam's Apple's Games, a game of polyomino spaceship building as you go through this game trying to take tiles from a center rondel in which you're going to be grabbing tiles from the rondel and slotting them onto your own unique planet and situation to fill your board in the best way possible. You're going to have corporations that are different in different ways. You're going to have planets that give you their own little spin on how they play out. But ultimately, this is a game that landed recently, clearly well rated, coming in at an 8.0 on Board Game Geek. It's clearly currently well liked by the people who've gotten their hands in it, including myself. I know Tom Vassell gave it a seal of excellence. This is a great game. It's a great game that took way too long to deliver, but it's here now, and that's okay because all is forgiven when the game shows up and it actually is pretty good, as Planet Unknown is. Planet Unknown in some way, shape, or form will be at Gen Con, as will the rest of these, so I won't say that every single time, but Planet Unknown is a light, quick-playing, polyomino game that will give you a lot of satisfying moments and experience in it for a reasonable playtime, a reasonable price point, a lot of variability. Not the best polyomino game I've ever played, but a really solid one that's highly variable and has a good degree of just even the player count. The fact that you can play this between 1 to 6 players, and you can play it at 6. This is one of those few games I will happily play at 6 because of the simultaneous selection you have with the rondel. It means a 6-player game is only marginally slower than a 4-player game or the like. But that's Planet Unknown. My number 11, going out of order for the first and last time this video, is 4 Humours. 4 Humours from Adam Apple's Games, which I really wanted to include as well, but I didn't want to include 2 from the same publisher, although now that I say that, I don't actually know if I included 2 any other time, so we'll see. But 4 Humours is going to go along with Planet Unknown. It's just another game from Adam's Apple Games. I imagine this one is not available to buy, although it might be. I imagine it's available to see or demo in some way, shape, or form. 4 Humours is a less popular game that leans heavily into the prisoner's dilemma idea. You're going to have various tokens that are going down the board in different ways, and the problem is different things can go on different spots depending on the specific card at play. And so you have this interesting situation where you can play tokens down in different ways, you can play them onto different spots, and you're doing so trying to be mindful of the fact that there might be situations in which you win, but only if no one else tries to do the same thing as you. If you both try to do the same thing, then ultimately you'll both lose and someone else will get it. And so there's constant prisoner's dilemma battle in play as you try to balance the different 4 Humours at play, where they can go, and the specific rules of resolution as you try to gather placement zones on these cards. It works really well, plays really quickly. It's one of those games that kind of flew under the radar, comparatively speaking. It definitely did not do anywhere near as well as Planet Unknown did, but it's one that I really, really enjoyed and am looking forward to actually playing it when it shows up. From there we have number 9 is CoraQuest. This is a good time to note that these are not in any particular order whatsoever. None of these are. The order they are in is the order they were on the Board Game Geek list on, I think, mostly, or the order I added them after. They're not in any particular order. This is not numbered from, my least to most anticipated. They're just 10 or 11 games that I really enjoyed enough to say, hey, you should probably check these out. Number 9 is CoraQuest. CoraQuest coming in at an 8.4 on Board Game Geek. I'll admit, I like CoraQuest. I think that rating is being biased by the amazing community that they have built. A community that likes the game, a community that's happy to rate it well, a community that is excited for the journey and the people, and not just the game. Don't get me wrong, I think the game is great. 8.4 is ambitious. But CoraQuest is a game from Dan and Cora Hughes, designed by Dan and Cora Hughes, doing Pandemic, doing Lockdown, brought to Kickstarter, did tremendously well. Tremendously well. I'm very excited for them, very happy for them as you go through this dungeon crawling game. Now, it's worth noting, I am biased here for the sake of, well, first of all, it's Dan and Cora Hughes, so that's just adorable. And secondly is, my daughter and I did write an adventure for this game, so my inclusion of this game on the list, take it with a healthy grain of salt because of the fact that that's there. Then again, we have 11 games anyway, so you can count this as 11 if you want. But CoraQuest is an excellent game, a family-friendly dungeon crawler that is a little bit, like, it's not the same level of family-friendly as, let's say, Quest Kids. Quest Kids can be played with, like, your 4-year-old. CoraQuest can be played with your 4-year-old if you're helping hold their hand. If you're handing it to a bunch of kids on their own, I'd probably recommend closer to 7+ for the ages. Although even that, take with a grain of salt depending on the specific people you're playing with and their experience with games. But it's one that works really well, has adorable art from kids, garified by the artist to make it to a level where it all seems to work together well. It has a whole bunch of variability to the experience, the scenarios you're playing with, the gear, the upgrades, the weapons, all of it works incredibly well as far as giving you a very accessible dungeon crawler with giving you enough depth to be semi-interesting as an adult while giving you enough accessibility to be definitely interesting for children of all kinds of ages. CoraQuest is one that I highly recommend checking out if you have, I guess I would say, kids. If you have kids who might be interested in this genre, I would not recommend this for a bunch of adults only. I think you probably should be looking for something else. But if you have anyone on the kid side of the agenda at all, on the kid side of the spectrum of ages or whatnot, then I'd go ahead and check out CoraQuest. From there, we have Empire's End. Empire's End from Otherwise Games, from John D. Clear, art by Quanchi Moria. This is one where I had a chance to play this at Origins. For the first time I played this at Origins, also for the last time I played at Origins, I didn't play it more than that single time. But it's a game which you're trying to build up your empire while you bid for tragedies, or more specifically, you bid to not get the tragedy. So you're going to be having these tragedies pop up that will mess with your board, and players keep bidding to not get it. Eventually, one player says, I'm not willing to bid, they get it, and they'll go ahead and they'll get the tragedy along with all the resources at play. You're trying to balance when is the right time to take the tragedies, when is the right time to go through the sequence of play as you build up your empire and manage it in between those rounds. It's one that I haven't played it enough to say, oh my gosh, this is the best game ever. I got one play at Origins, so it's a limited experience, but I certainly got enough of a taste that I want to dive into it more. I don't know where it lands for me. Is it a keeper? Is it one that I play 3-4 times? I don't know that yet, but I know that I enjoyed what I saw so far, which makes sense. It's from John D. Clear. I've generally enjoyed his games. Empire's End from Otherwise Games is one that I would recommend getting your hands on a play, I guess. This is not one which you'll be able to buy. I assume not, because it's not even on Kickstarter yet, but it's one which you should be able to demo and table. From there we have Fall of the Mountain King. Fall of the Mountain King from Burnt Island Games. This is one that I absolutely loved. I'm sure you cannot buy this at Gencon, but I think you will be able to demo it or table it. Fall of the Mountain King is easily my favorite Burnt Island game so far, and I generally enjoy their games. I've enjoyed In the Hall of Mountain King, I've enjoyed Endeavor Age of Sail, I've enjoyed In Too Deep, but Fall of the Mountain King is easily my favorite game, although it does lean into area control and powers and abilities, which is also my favorite general genre. But Fall of the Mountain King has a lot going for it. The gameplay is fast, the gameplay gives you a lot of stuff to do, it gives you a lot of powers up, a lot of voting as you move through the hall trying to get votes in different clans' influences, a lot of managing of the various goblins. If I can find the board over here, lots of managing of the various goblins as you try to go around the board and just basically get control of the various caverns, using your abilities as you can, when to move around, to attack, to engage, to set up defensive positions as the various, whatever they're called, goblins? No, something. As the various somethings are invade imps? Imps? I don't know. Something's invading the mountains as you go through it. Eventually you will fall. That's not the question. The question is who can get the most points along the way. It works really well, gives you powers and abilities. You're constantly bidding for these trolls that will give you these extra powers, which are a lot of fun. Overall, the full package of Fall of the Mountain King is one of the better, well, it's the best Burnt Island Games game that I've played, and one of the better area control games in general that I've played. From there, we have the Isle of Cats Explore and Draw. Now, this is one that I assume you will be able to purchase, because it's already out, it already exists. And this is one that I had a chance to play just last week for the first time, and I really liked it. Like, really enjoyed it. And if you are someone that has watched my content enough, if you know my opinion of Isle of Cats, that might come across as a surprise to you, because Isle of Cats is a game that I liked, but got rid of. I liked it, kind of was tempted to get pulled back in for the second Kickstarter, but ultimately it was a game that was not for me. Versus Isle of Cats Explore and Draw, to me, it has all the best parts of Isle of Cats. And Isle of Cats is well loved. Take my opinion with a grain of salt here. That's like the fourth time I said a grain of salt this video. We'll try not to say it again. Isle of Cats Explore and Draw is one that takes the best parts of Isle of Cats for me and removes the unnecessary fluff that was unnecessary. The one downside of Isle of Cats Explore and Draw is you don't have the cat polyomino tiles. Instead, you're drawing little cat shapes on your board. That is a reasonable downside. Those polyomino tiles in Isle of Cats are adorable. For me, I'll live with the sacrifice and the trade-off. Isle of Cats Explore and Draw gave me the boat building joy. It gives you these row of cards. You're going to be selecting rows of cards one at a time, so everyone has the same options to pick from, but you might choose different things, similar to a game like Welcome To. Meanwhile, you're using that to draw shapes onto your board. That's a very, very neat shape over there. You're drawing shapes onto your board in order to take those polyomino tiles you've taken from the card row, and it has all the same general mechanics of Isle of Cats. If you've played Isle of Cats, this is a game that can be taught to you in, I don't know, 5 minutes, 6 minutes. It has all the same general mechanics and rules, just taken from the core concept of drafting cards, and instead taken from just selecting a row of cards. It gives me a column of cards. It gives me all the things I liked about Isle of Cats and takes away all the excess that does not add value to the experience. I really enjoyed Isle of Cats Explore and Draw, and I definitely recommend that one. Then we have Dune Imperium Rise of Ix, another game that I played for the first time this past week. Dune Imperium Rise of Ix is, well, delightful. That's what it is. It's delightful is the word I'm looking for. Dune Imperium Rise of Ix gives you, it gives a better experience to the gameplay you'll see in Dune. If you've played Dune, if you enjoyed Dune, Dune Imperium Rise of Ix takes that core gameplay structure and it adds more facets to the game. If you, like, let's give you my opinion of Dune. My opinion of Dune is it's amazing. It's a great game. It was in my top 100, towards the top of my top 100, but it was in my top 100 last year. I really enjoyed it. But I also thought that Dune followed certain predictable cycles as far as the worker placement engine. You go here to get spice, you trade the spice for that, you trade the spice for that, you use the water. You're going in a circular loop as far as how you place your people. A work that loops, a work that has some degree of variation as far as how and what you do. There's definitely variation, but it felt like it was mostly very particular in the way you built forward in Dune. Like the game, like it a lot, top 100. This is not a complaint, but it felt a little bit constricted. Dune Imperium Rise of Ix gives you a few more things. It gives you these dreadnoughts you're going to have in the game. Dreadnoughts that will go onto the board that just don't die, and they are terrifying because they just don't die. They're going to have these extra zones. Here's a dreadnought over here after a battle. You're going to have these extra technology tiles you're acquiring that build up your own tableau. You buy those and you get very different things, whether in-game, end-game abilities, you get all those things. It's going to have another track, which is somewhere over here. This track over here hidden behind that board, which is another way to climb up this trading track and get additional bonuses. The Dune Imperium Rise of Ix takes the core gameplay of Dune, giving you new factions, new cards, and a few new other elements to the gameplay that to me majorly mixed up the Dune experience. I don't see a reason to ever play base Dune again. This gives me the same experience but with more variability. Dune Imperium Rise of Ix I think is fantastic. I will say I think the upgrade kit is I didn't like the upgrade kit. I felt like actively didn't like it. I played with somebody else's copy. They had the upgrade kit. I did not felt it add anything to the game. I like the plain meeples as is. But that's Dune Imperium Rise of Ix. Next up, we have Mosaic, A Story of Civilization, a game that has a 6.7. I am so baffled. I am curious what the rating Mosaic will get when it actually lands. Because whenever you have these Kickstarter games, sometimes they get review hyped up and sometimes they get review bombed. I'd have to go through the ratings there to see what they are from. To me, Mosaic is not a 6.7. I don't know what's going on. I want to read comments. I'm sorry, I'm going to get distracted here. Let's see. Nothing. I want an actual rating, like something. Give me something to work with here. Nope. It looks like it got rating bombed. It's just plain boring. I'm sorry to say, not with the price. Worth one playthrough. Okay, that's at least an opinion. I'll take it. I'm not seeing much in the way of ratings over here. It almost looks like it got rating bombed by people. Is that what happened? Let me start with I haven't played the game, and actually my rating is based on the fact that the final price of the game became significantly higher than communicated. Okay, there's a 1 for that. That's fine. Not enough player interaction. A 2. This game is not a 2. I'm sorry. It's just not. The 2-player game is basically broken. I played one of my games at 2 and really enjoyed it. Most of my games were at higher player counts. I played one game at 2. Played on Tabletopia, which is not optional, optimal. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with the ratings of this game. Maybe I'm wrong. Listen, it happens. Sometimes my opinion of a game is just very different than other people's opinions. But I loved Mosaic. I give it a 5 out of 5, and I think it would hold up for me. I believe I revised it to a 4.5 in my yearly look back when I was taking a look at how my rating scale goes. But I really like Mosaic. I thought Mosaic was a fantastic experience. Really enjoyed it. This is a tableau building. At this point, Forbidden Games is probably like, Alex, you're not doing us any favors with this video. You're emphasizing the 6.7 more than anything else. Perhaps, but I like the game. Also, I will be playing it at Gencon as well. They're having demos and whatnot. I will be joining one of those because I'm happy to give up 2 hours of my Gencon time to play this game. That should tell you how I feel about it. I don't like giving up convention time, and I only give it up to games that I am either really interested in or already know that I already like, and this definitely falls in the category of game that I know that I already like. Now, how does it hold up to, like, I don't know, a dozen plays? I don't know. We'll see. Time will tell on this one. But I thought Mosaic, A Story of Civilization felt like a accessible tableau builder that gave me a lot of the fun of a game like Terraforming Mars while feeling very different, very quick, very fast moving, very accessible, very variable pathways to victory, every action feeling rewarding because every action powers up the next action. So you're constantly playing this game of trying to say, well, I want to do X, but if I do X first, then Y is better. If I do Y first, then Z is better, and continue that cycle of just constantly trying to grow and improve as you gather, as you move around the board, as you get various cards, as you add those cards to your engine, as you cash in on the engine you're building. I really enjoy Mosaic: A Story of Civilization. It's one that I am very much looking forward to the copy. I just got today a notification. You might be able to buy this Gencon. It's possible you can buy this. I got a notification today saying, hey, time to update your address, which means if it's that close, they might have copies at Gencon. We'll see. I don't know. What I do know is it's absolutely fantastic, and I highly recommend Mosaic, despite the 6.7 rating that I hope is wrong. We'll see. Time will tell on that one. Scout. Scout is my next pick. This is one which I don't know if it's available to buy or not. It is a game that's already out. Scout from Oiken Games is one that I had a chance to play for the first time at Origins. Scout is a game of trying to manage your hand in a way you're going to have these splayed cards in your hand, like so, and you're trying to use these cards to basically follow other players. So players can play either runs of numbers or sets of the same number, and they have to follow that with either more or higher within that. So either more of a run or more or higher run or whatever it is as you try to play and match the cards. The balance is you can never shift the order of the cards in your hand. So as you add cards to your hand and as you take out cards from your hand, you are inherently creating and modifying more patterns in the game, which results in this interesting decision tree as far as how you can actually do things. If this person plays their 2 1s and the 6 and the 9 before, then they'll have a 4 5 6 run instead. So that results in a trade-off. How do you manage and how do you play? Which sacrifices do you make? Which cards do you pull up in order to slot into and create a better hand? Scout is a fast-playing, quick, simple, accessible game. I do not know if it has legs. I don't know if it's the kind of game that sticks around for a long time, but my one play of it, my one play of it was very compelling, and it's the kind of quick, easy to introduce game that I would love to add to my collection. Next up, we have Marrakesh. Marrakesh from Queen Games, and this is one where inherently this Queen Games City Collection got its own degree of backlash, and I hope this game manages to outpace the backlash. Marrakesh is from Stefan Feld, and I really, really enjoyed this game. There's not a lot of pictures here, so I can't show you that much, or maybe there are pictures, or maybe they just weren't highlighted. Marrakesh has a lot going on in the experience. This over here, oh my gosh, let's see if we can do this here. Let's see if we can zoom in a bit. This is not working. Here we go. This is Marrakesh. It has a lot going on as far as the game. It's a giant box. It's a little blurry pixelated over here. But there's a lot going on as far as the different marketplaces. You have different colors, meeples that are going in different zones. You have tons of different zones and the different ways they activate. You're trying to choose which to activate and which ways. This is one that I had a chance to play through a while ago when they were having the Kickstarter. The price point of the game is expensive. I'm not trying to take that away from you, and I don't know if it's available to demo at Gen Con or to buy at Gen Con, but it's definitely an expensive game, but it's an expensive game that uses a tower well in terms of everything dumping out, and has a typical Stefan Feld production in which you feel when you're done playing it for the first time that there are 14 more ways to play the game, that you want to try them all. You want to try the mixing and matching of different ways to build up your engine and get things done. Marrakesh is absolutely fantastic, and it's one that I likely will be picking up a copy at some point. I like Stefan Feld. This is a little on the heavier side as far as his games go, but a very rewarding experience. And then lastly, we have Last Light. Last Light, a 7.8 currently on Board Game Geek, and that's such a good game. Last Light from Roy Candidate and from Grey Fox Games. This is one that I'm assuming is available to demo and not to buy, but Last Light is absolutely delightful. If you've watched any of my coverage on this game, you know how I feel about this game. This is a fast-playing 4X experience that does not compromise on what a 4X experience is. Inherently, the fact that it plays in an hour, you can play this game at like 4 players for the first time in an hour and have a good experience, which means inherently there's a small degree of what you do and don't get out of the 4X experience. But whenever someone tells you, hey, this game gives you 4X and it does so fast and quick and all that stuff, usually it does not feel 4X. Last Light feels like a 4X game. It feels like a 4X experience. Plays well at 2 as well, by the way. I had a chance to play it at 2 players with Roy online before I did my review, while the Kickstarter was active, and it's such a solid game. It worked well. 2 is likely not my go-to player count, but I think I would play this at 2 because it really does give you a solid experience. It really does give you an experience of playing your cards in the right order, trying to choose which activations, trying to choose. Similar to Mosaic. I'll do this so that that's better. I do that so that this is better. I do this so that that's better. It has that tableau building. It has that sense of discovery. It has that sense of exploration. It has science and technology. It has conflict that rewards combat. Overall, Last Light is such a ridiculously good game that I'm just very excited. I'm very excited to actually table this one when I finally get a production copy of the game. What I had was a prototype. Prototype was fine, but ultimately this is one I want to get my hands on when I can. And those are 10 or 11 games that I highly recommend checking out at Gen Con. 10 or 11 games that will give you give you that they're worth trying or seeing in some way. Whether it's to demo them, whether it's to just see other people playing them, or whether it's to pick up your own copy, I think these are all fantastic games that are worth having on your radar. I'll be following this up later this week or next week sometime in some way, shape, or form with another list of the 10 games that I want to play myself, at least one of which I know I'm already playing, and the rest we'll see what I can actually get done. In any case, and until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, have a good one.